thing I wanted to ask you, since you're also a wonderful artist, is what part of the process of when you start to make art do you find the most difficult to get past? Is it starting the project? Is it knowing when to stop? Or is it just what do you want to make?
For me, because I've done so much work with the inner critic, I can deal with that now. For most people, the inner critic is the thing that comes in and blocks you. And it can block you at any point along the way. At the beginning, it can say, don't waste your time doing that. Or after you do it, it starts picking it apart too soon. Criticism too soon is a killer. So it's okay to bring your critic in later. You know, it's okay for me to bring my critic in after I've got all the beads strung. And then I go, is that really the effect I wanted? Well, not quite. Maybe I'm going to take a few beads off and add some other colors here. Maybe I like that bead here instead of there, so I'll redo something here. But if I keep doing that in the beginning of the process, then I don't get anything creative because my left brain, my logical mind, has come in with criticism and it's just shot a hole through my creative vision. So I have to make a lot of mistakes and explore and experiment. Then I get to a place where I know inside, okay, now's the time to look at the product here and go, is that what I want? Do I want to make some changes? It's like writing a book. I have to just write all kinds of stuff and get it out on the paper. Then I go back and edit. Then I go back and change things. But I've got to get my thoughts out first. And if the critic comes in too soon, and that's where my book, The Power of Your Other Hand, is superb. Because that tells you all about how to use that process. And if I hadn't done that, I would have never written my first book because my critic was driving me crazy. It was killing my creative vision right from the start because I couldn't get anything on the paper. I was teaching it, I was using it in my life, I knew what I wanted to say, my students were asking for a book, I had already given them guidelines and everything, and I knew what I wanted to say, but my critic was coming in and saying, nobody wants to publish what you write, this is a waste of time, why are you doing this? You know, so I had to come back and answer back to it from what I call the inner brat, and just say, you know, shut up, I'm going to do it anyway, I'm not paying attention to you. Then, once I got going, I wrote that book in 3 months, and I was only working on it 2 or 3 days a week, because I was teaching and raising kids a lot. I didn't have a lot of time. But I got it done very quickly, and it was the finished book as it is now. I mean, it's been out since 1980.
Thank goodness you did, because the number of people that you have helped is just...
And you know, it's become a bestseller over the years. I get a lot of emails from people who use the book. A lot of artists use it to get through their blocks. And then I recommend that they get The Power of Your Other Hand. Creative Journal and Power of Your Other Hand together are the absolute foundation of all my work. Because The Power of Your Other Hand is more about writing and dealing with the inner critic, even though there is drawing. And in fact, the artist at Disney who used to do the Disney art workshops for the animators, he used to have them draw with a non-dominant hand long before I had thought of it. He's passed away now, Herbie Ryman, but he used to have them draw with their non-dominant hand to loosen them up and get more creative. And so that non-dominant hand book is really important because it really gets you past all of that critic that comes in and just blocks you. You know, and it's about self-esteem. It attacks your self-esteem, it attacks your creativity, attacks you as a person, you know, and you can't be creative when you've got that voice going on. You just cannot.
I am totally in love with the dual hand drawing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And you see the drawings in that book that were done in still lifes. I was there for the class. My friend Mona Brooks, who developed Mona Art, was teaching it. And I said, could we do an experiment and have them draw the still life first with one hand and then with the other and see the difference? And there was a difference in every one. And the one with the non-dominant hand was far superior. The composition, the overall flow of the lines, everything about it was better than the one with dominant hand. Because the non-dominant hand taps into the right brain, which is where the artist is. Our visual perception abilities to see what's in front of us and to look at contours and shapes and all that is a right brain function. And the non-dominant hand, the hand that we don't normally write with, taps right into it. So that's why my journal method features that so much. Drawing with a non-dominant hand and writing with it. Now, in the Creative Journal book, the first book, I wasn't doing as much non-dominant hand work. There's a little bit in that book. But by the time I wrote Power of Your Other Hand, I was really sold on it because I'd seen the results with clients and students. So in that book, I really focus on it. And in all my other books, I recommend doing most of the drawing with a non-dominant hand because you access the emotional centers of the right brain as well. So you'll get the truth about how you really feel, not how you think you should feel, but how you really feel.
And the most common question I get with that is, well, what if I'm left-handed and I'm already right brain dominant?
Right.
Then if I'm switching to my right hand, aren't I stifling myself even more?
Well, left-handed people are not necessarily right brain dominant. That's up for grabs. But what I do know, and this was verified by a scientist at UCLA who read my book, Power of the Hand, and I asked her about that. I said, the question I get is from left-handed people. It's like, well, I understand the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the left side of the brain is controlling the language centers, and so you're writing with your dominant hand, and it's coming from the left brain. But what about left-handed people?
I just want to say hi. That's all, before I go.
So what about left-handed people? And she said, well, here's the thing. When you went to school, you were taught to write with whatever hand you use. So if you were left-handed and you were taught to write with your left hand, you hardwired that hand to the language centers of your left brain. Otherwise, you couldn't write with that hand. You've got to engage the Broca's language centers and the Wernicke center. That's just the way it is. To read and write, you have to use those centers. That's in the left brain. So it doesn't matter what hand you normally write with. That writing hand got hardwired to the language centers of the brain. But the hand that never learned to write is free. It was not hardwired to that side. So it's free to access the right brain. Now for left-handed people that makes sense. Right-handed people, because the right brain controls the left side of the body, so you go, well, of course. But the fact is, I'm the only person on the planet that has done as much field research on this topic. I've worked with thousands of people all over the world, and my books are out there all over, thousands and thousands of books, and I get emails from people who read the books. So I know what happens when people use their non-dominant hand. Whether they're right or left-handed, they get the same results. Because the left-handed people tell me, oh, when I write with my right hand, I feel like a little kid, I get more creative, I find my inner wisdom. That's all the stuff that happens with right-handed people too. And they're using their left hand. So I know now, and when I went to talk to Valerie Hunt at UCLA, she said, yeah, that's because that hand is free to access the right hemisphere of the brain. And the other thing she said, which I already knew, of course that hand feels very childlike because it hasn't written before. It's awkward. It doesn't have that small motor control. And so it's awkward. It feels like a little kid's. And so that's exactly what I want to do, is get people into their inner child. But they also access their inner wisdom that way, and their inner artist. That's why drawing with a non-dominant hand gives you a kind of vitality in your drawing. If you want something really expressive, a lot of this stuff here, I drew all of this stuff with my non-dominant hand. These are painted, and I did a little bit of drawing under that. Most of that's non-dominant hand.
Yeah, it does look. When you use your non-dominant hand, it's more creative looking. It doesn't look so cliche. It's not just a regular face. It's not just a something that you see over and over. It's really unique.
Because the right brain is in the moment. It's right here with this color green on this piece of paper today in this light. Okay, so it's very, very in the moment, and that's what an artist has to do, is be in the moment with what's going on this page today. And if you're drawing something outside of yourself, like a flower, you want to be with that flower and the lighting on it and the shape of it right now. And the lighting's going to change in another 20 minutes, probably, if we're outside. So but you've got to be with that thing right now, in your experience and your relationship with it. That's what gives art its vitality and immediacy.
Yeah, I guess that's what makes plein air painters love being outdoors and painting that moment right then versus
the light will never be like that again, and
Well, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Lots of things to do.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad we could do it.